it was always just like this element of like hiding things or having a dessert, you know, and Joe would always be watching you and stuff like.
You made your debut in then 2010 against New Zealand, down in New Zealand, and you scored. Was that your first touch? I watched it today, and I think you were in a ruck, and then the next ruck you scored from. So it was literally just first touch in international rugby, and you're under the sticks. And
yeah, it was. It was Paulie was injured, Donica Ryan was injured, I think, and Dev hadn't broken onto the Irish scene just yet. So it was myself, Mick O'Driscoll, Donica O'Callaghan, Ed O'Donoghue, and maybe one other. The name escapes me right now, so I might not be doing it justice. But it was, I mean, the 2010 tour was the end of a very long season for us, and you know, we didn't have a great squad down there. And I mean, it was amazing, but you know, I guess I kind of took my opportunity a little bit, really, I guess, with the first touch and stuff. But Mick O'Driscoll's back was literally hanging on for dear life throughout the whole tour. So we played the Maoris the following week, lost that game, and we put out a pretty strong team. John Hayes played, Shayna Horgan played. We lost that by a couple of points. And I thought, you know, Nick barely even trained. I thought I was going to be involved in the game against Australia to start. And I was on the bench again, and I got a few minutes at the end. So although it was an amazing tour, I really don't think that they saw much of me playing. I wouldn't say it's pointless me going, but what I'm saying is, you know, I made 2 caps, Australia and New Zealand, and it sounds amazing. I scored a try, you know, my first touch, but both appearances were off the bench. The Australian one was late in the game. I don't think you really learned much from that. Do you know what I mean? I did tour, and they go, oh, well, you know, this guy's ready for international rugby. You can't say that off the basis of a guy with 38-0 down when I came in against New Zealand. And I played, I don't know, 10 minutes against Australia. So, you know, I don't know why they do this, because if the international coach, Declan Kidney at the time, if he doesn't know anything about Mick O'Driscoll, then I don't know what's going on, because he coached Mick with Munster. I'm not just picking on Mick, I'm just using an example. And he was injured.
Yeah.
So what's the point? What is the point in doing this? You know, so I went away, I was like, yeah, this is awesome. But then I thought to myself, what's the point? You brought me all the way to New Zealand. You know, if you don't know anything about Mick by now, you know, what are we doing?
Do you think then, as a big accusation to throw out to Declan Kidney, it's probably very unfair, but do you think that's just a natural kind of anti-Ulster, anti-Connacht bias that kind of, do you think it exists? I don't know. That's a big accusation.
Sometimes I did, sometimes I didn't. You know, I don't know really. I mean, when you've got to look at it, you've got to put yourself in the coach's shoes. You know, when he, for years, has coached Munster and played these guys that have got credit in the bank with him. You know, and you think to yourself, oh my God, I can't believe this coach is picking this player, X, Y, and Z, whoever it might be. It's because they've got credit in the bank. They trusted him, you know. Yeah, and I think if you go all the way to, you know, the recent World Cup with Joe, he just put too much trust in guys that had a lot of credit in the bank, but, you know, they were done. Do you know what I mean? You know, they should have closed their account effectively. But, you know, he just wanted to keep it open because he had a little bit of nostalgia about it. And I understand that because, you know, they've done it for him on the battlefield more times than not. But it's difficult, you know.
It's about that balance, isn't it? Just having the balance of experience and younger players and just having that balance. And it's easier said than done. Like, if you give me the Ireland job and all the media saying get rid of Sexton, and I'm there with Sexton, I probably will keep playing Sexton. So it is a hard thing to do. You kind of touched there on Joe Schmidt. I know I'm fascinated by Joe Schmidt, hearing all the stories about him. Just kind of a broad question, what is Joe Schmidt really like? I've heard stories that he's very school teacher-ish. Like, I think one of his first sessions for Leinster, Brian O'Driscoll dropped the ball in the video analysis, and he just pointed at Brian and said, good players don't drop that ball. And then everyone's like, right, we kind of know the respect levels he wants. Is he like that? Is he kind of a bit scary, or?
Yeah, I mean, I could see how he would do that. That's definitely a true story. Yeah, he is a pretty scary character. Yeah, he is, because I think you've seen a seismic shift from the Ireland team there recently, and actually international teams in general, because I didn't react well to being belittled or feeling scared. It wasn't really a good thing for me. I didn't really enjoy that feeling. I know a lot of other players didn't as well. Some people thrive in that, but he wasn't a warm character. He wouldn't be like making you scared or making an environment where it's a little bit edgy on the training pitch, but afterwards you'd be like quite personable and he'd be interested in you. It was like that nonstop. He never felt like, I use Chris Henry's example. Chris, he was always like, a lot of the time he was in shape. He didn't look in shape. He was fit as anything, but he looked like a bag of shit. But like Chris would be like at dinner, not sure if he could have ketchup with food, and it was always just like this element of like hiding things or having a dessert, and Joe would always be watching you and stuff like, but one thing I will say is, he prepared his teams incredibly well. I'm sat here, I've not even achieved, 5% of what Joe's achieved in rugby. He prepared his teams to the nth degree incredibly well. But he did, I do believe he did stifle some creativity. I think you're probably seeing that now for a little bit of a painful period with Andy Farrell. But I think there's a trust in that process of creativity and ultimately putting the onus more on the players. I always felt Joe just said no. I remember one meeting, he goes, do not offload. You haven't got the skills to offload. And this is not just me, the whole squad. You can't offload unless it's 100%, don't bother doing it. Just get the ball back and we'll keep the ball. So guys were just petrified to offload the ball, And it just stifled, like I said, it just felt like a stifle. It was such a weird thing for me because I lived and died by getting that email for Ireland selection. But when I got it, I'd almost go, oh my God, I've got to go down to see Joe for 8 weeks. He's going to torture me about something. And before long, he'd be on my back and I'd just be beaten down. And I think he wanted to make me stronger. But in actual fact, like I needed just a bit of space, I didn't work well with that. And everybody's different, I always sort of like Brian McLaughlin would give an arm on my shoulder, or Mark Hanscom. I would be like, I believe in you, mate. You can do this. And I'd feel like 10 feet tall, I think Joe wanted to come out, see me fight in, and he was telling me to do different things. And I played a World Cup warm-up game in 2015, and I was absolutely dreadful against Scotland because I was just trying to do things that other lots did that I thought he wanted me to do. It was a shambles for me,
Yeah, you touched there on the 2015 World Cup. You also played in the 2014 Six Nations. First of all, how was that in the 2014 Six Nations? I think it was Scotland. You got an early. You got O'Connell was sick in the morning. You got a start there, and then Wales as well. So how was that playing in the Six Nations? And obviously, you're playing in the Six Nations before World Cup. You must have felt you were in a really good space to then push on and get in the World Cup squad.
Yeah. So it was missed out in 2011. I wasn't selected in the panel. I was injured actually going up to it. But I think they would have gone with who they went with anyway, Leo and the likes. And then fast forward, I was kind of in and around the squad the whole time, 11, 12, 13, played away in New Zealand, started 3 tests in 2012. I still hadn't started a test on home soil. I played in loads of different games for Ireland, of represented games, A games, but still yet to do a first test. I was on the bench. And like you said, this goes back to being prepared. Like Paulie was sick overnight. Joe just goes to me, pulled me to one side and said, you're going to start 8 o'clock in the morning. You're starting this afternoon. And that was it really. But I knew through a bit of fear, like we talked about earlier, I was so well prepared. I knew everything. If Paulie had gone down the first minute, I could have gone on and played the game. And I went on to have a good game. I was then on the bench, and this was when Ian Henderson was in the squad. He was in the squad here. And I went on to go on the bench against Wales, came on against Wales, first action, cleaned out a ruck, hit Gethin Jenkins on the shoulder. Rory Best subsequently hit me at the same time on my forearm, and I broke my arm. Felt like it was a dead arm, and I played on. We got a penalty. Sexto kicked the penalty, and I went to Rory because he had broke his arm against New Zealand, if you remember rightly.
Yeah, we were there.
Played on for a little bit, and I said, mate, I think I broke my arm. He goes, no, you'll be fine. I said, honestly, I think I can hear it clicking. I can feel it break. Couple scrums later, couple of scrums went down, and I just heard this crunch. I thought, no, it's definitely broken. 5 or so minutes had gone past, 5 or 10 minutes, and I was like avoiding any contact whatsoever. Do you know, I was just chasing around, hoping it would not come to me. I went down, they pulled me off, x-rayed me at the stadium, and I broke my arm. And from there on in, it was difficult, you know. Hendy came in. Hendy came in that next week, on week 3, week 4, and week 5. They won the Six Nations. I got presented the medal here. Came back, started 2015 season like with a rocket up my ass, scoring tries, playing 3 consecutive tries, playing really, really well. Cardiff Arms Park broke it again in 2015. So it was difficult, you know. Prep for the World Cup was okay. I'd broken my arm the second time after the World Cup, but I was carrying a few niggles into the World Cup camp. I had a real nasty Achilles problem I couldn't get rid of. I really knew I was behind Donica Ryan. I would need an injury from Donica to get into the squad, and he didn't get one. Yeah. I knew it was coming.
Mm-hmm. And so with the kind of injuries and stuff there, and then not really being where you thought you would be just with the World Cup and things like that, did that also kind of signal the beginning of the end at your time at Ulster as well?
It was, didn't make the World Cup squad, came back, and Joe goes, listen, you know, if there's an injury, keep yourself ready, you'll go in. Paulie did his hamstring. Do you remember the one that actually retired in?
It's France.
Mike McCarthy got the phone call. I didn't make it into the squad. And because when he did his hamstring,
you were ready.
I was like, I'm going to get a phone call here. And then one of the boys in the camp rang me and texted me and said, mate, Mike McCarthy's just turned up. And I was like, oh my God. And obviously, you know, that second World Cup warm-up game was the last game I played for him. So that was a real blow for me. And